Hey! Sorry, I'm just a big Guy in a Cube fan, of course, and I think a lot of you guys also. So just being funny. Thank you for watching. We'll have a quick introduction into the Monkey Data Warehouse and what the added value is for a SQL engineer. Well, I'm a SQL engineer. I like querying changes, and I like build SQL queries using SQL, of course. I do know there are a lot of options in Databricks and Delta files and Delta tables and a lot of other stuff, but I'm a SQL guy. I just want to do things the SQL way. Well, Monkey Data Warehouse is actually a nice addition next to your lakehouse. And why is that? Because the Monkey Data Warehouse queries all the files or the Delta tables inside the lakehouse. It will fetch all the metadata, and using the metadata, it will generate database options, or sorry, objects for processing data in an historical way, which includes inserts, updates, deletes also. So if you're going to process a full export from the source file, and if there's a record missing, it will be flagged as deleted, and thus you can trigger a logic gap or something else, or using the data activator, for example, which comes in a couple of months. But let's head over to the demo. Let's start with the lakehouse. I have a setup here, which is a demo setup, which uses a medallion setup or and folder structure. So bronze, silver, and gold. I have included a couple of samples, which will be included in the download package. But heading over to the bronze, so the bronze folder holds a couple of sources. In this case, AdventureWorks holds a customer file, and it also includes a archive folder of previously processed folder files, in this case, that are moved to the archive folder, and then year, month, and date. Well, this is a particular setup. In this case, I export files to CSV or Parquet. I turn them into Delta tables, and then Delta tables are being extracted by the Monkey Data Warehouse. The data is processed, and then it's stacked historically in a historical table. So as soon as that file has been processed, the file will be moved to the archive folder, and then things start over again. So you can also, of course, apply changes here. You can, switch the bronze, silver, and gold to using a landing folder or a raw folder. You can override any existing files. You can append them. There are different ways to do that. But in this demo, you're going to see that later on in this daily run pipeline, how it's currently being set up. And this is just one way to do it. So there's not a wrong way to do it. So looking at the files, I have a customer file in AdventureWorks, and I have 4 Parquet files in the Star Wars source folder. Well, I do want to make sure that for this demo, we have no tables, so it's completely empty. I did delete them previously. And now I'm going to turn the files into Delta tables by executing this PySpark query. The notebook, by the way, itself has been included in the download package. So if you want to apply changes or change things a lot, use ChatGPT, not a problem. It will actually query the file folders and then fetch all the files. And then per file, it will create a Delta table and it will insert the new records. So it's quite fast, it's doable. And right now you can refresh this one and you can see that we do have new Delta tables. I did add the bronze prefix here because of course the bronze folder contains the bronze and then AdventureWorks and then the file name. And of course, same goes for Star Wars. So if you want to change things and switch over instead of bronze to raw or landing, go into the code and then replace bronze with something that you would like to use. Well, this is it. So here, the Monkey Data Warehouse uses these Delta tables and uses actually the SQL endpoint for fetching the metadata. So we're going to head over to the warehouse. The warehouse, we're going to run, make sure everything's empty. So I'm going to show you guys that the objects table and the columns table are empty. So we don't have any metadata right now. You do want to start fetching the columns first because the list of columns is used to determine what the business key will be. So right now it's going to look for an ID column. If it isn't in there, then search for a key column. And then third, final and last, the first column will be used for the business key as a default. So if there's anything that you would like to change, open up the objects table and then adjust the business key. It can be a concatenated key, can be a single one. But in this case, most tables nowadays have an ID column in there. So we did process the columns. It's now processing the objects, and then we're going to regenerate things. This is actually where the magic happens. So based on the metadata, it will generate all the database objects. So views, tables, store procedures. And this one is actually consists of a drop everything and a generate everything to be idempotent, which is always nice. You can just rerun things. It doesn't break. It cleans things up first and then generates it. So give it a few seconds, so 24 seconds. And now Fabric noticed that there are structural changes inside the database. Give it a few seconds. By the way, while we wait, there's a process everything store procedure that will go through all the store procedures that are supposed to be executed in a sequential way. But you know, SQL, it doesn't run things in parallel. So we're going to use the daily run ADF pipeline later on to run things in parallel and speed things up. Okay, so let's head over to the new schema. AdventureWorks, it of course holds the customer. It generated 3 views. There's a different video where I describe, you know, how to use these 3 views. But for now, we're just going to head over to the ADF pipeline. Okay, here's the pipeline. I did run it a few times before this demo. I'm just going to rerun things. So what is it going to do? It's going to execute the notebook that I've shown you before, which actually starts with importing libraries, deleting any existing ones, because it's sort of deleting, importing the new files again, and then use those data sets and you know, start processing the data. So you can always, you know, remove this section, you know, append a file or override a file. It's up to you. And then based on the existing files, it creates delta tables again. So it's just an idempotent. It's just starting fresh again. Takes about a minute and a half. So we're gonna have that one run for a second. Then it will query the, in this case, the SQL endpoint of the lakehouse. It will fetch, or it will use the list of existing delta tables and then run a for each, because you want to run things in parallel. I think it's currently set for 6 in parallel. You can easily increase it to 8 or 12, depending on your capacity. So right now we're still in a trial of Fabric, but I'm really looking forward on what the pricing will be and how the compute will be. But for now, I've been testing with large files and smaller files. It feels similar as Synapse ADF, so nothing strange going on in there. I do want to show you guys these steps or activities. It starts by processing the file, so it executes a store procedure, which is the fastest way to do that. And then it will move the file in the lakehouse. And basically how it does things is it copies it and then deletes the original one in the root. But copying will actually read the data and then exports it again. So we'll need to run a check if it's delimited file, in this case a CSV, or a Parquet file as a second check, and then delete the original one. So you can see that this one might fail in case it's a Parquet file. At this time of making this video, there's no way to check the structure of a file or the extension or property. This one, the ADF just supports like typical warehouse queries for metadata, and not something that's used for the lakehouse for, you know, determining the file type in this case. So breaking things is this works as designed. It continues. It's actually a Parquet file and deletes the Parquet file in the root folder. And if something goes wrong while processing, and you'll see that later on in the logging, it will insert a logging record. So then we're all done and set for. Let's refresh this one. Yep, it's done. It did fail a couple of times, which is then now supposed to be. So process the files, try to copy the file by reading the delimited file CSV file, then exporting it again to the archive folder. It failed for the Star Wars Parquet files, of course, But then a second try while using the packet type, it did succeed. And then in the end, it deleted the root folder. Oh, sorry, the file inside the root folder. So if I now refresh this one, it's gone, and it did move to the new archive folder. There it is. So we did process things. So I'm just want to show you guys the logging. There's a different video about that, but in the end, we did process 5 files. There are 11 here, but let's look at the latest timestamps. So 1501. So these 4 Star Wars, and then the AdventureWorks customer, of course, all succeeded. 8 seconds, and you see here that previously runs I did simulate failed processing things. So it does record an error message, and yes, you can do stuff with this one. So if you go and look at the logging, for example, and you want to zoom in on something on failed pipelines, you can build a monitoring on top of this one, and then you're all set. So thank you for watching. This is a short introduction on what the added value is of the MonkeyDWH. So it generates an historical staging and all terminology. So an historical SQL view or a SQL data warehouse based on your files in the lakehouse. And then basically it's just a data warehouse that we're used to on SQL Server and on Synapse. And then on top of these historical tables and historical views, you can always build a presentation layer or a data mart in this case. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.